Ancient Egypt was truly like the Garden of Eden. Its great abundance of food and livestock raised on the most fertile soil on earth. A unique desert climate without rain but amply watered by the Nile. And from under the earth treasures like gold and precious stones, with a wide choice of material for building and carving. Its extraordinary level of wisdom and spiritual understanding has never been surpassed. Yet today its monumental legacy is known to precious few, as the truth still lies buried beneath not sand, but layer upon layer of false beliefs. Even if you know nothing about ancient Egypt, for sure you've heard they had many gods whom they worshipped. That belief was a cover-up, started long, long ago with biblical stories like the worship of the golden calf, and continues even today through the mistranslation of a single hieroglyph, netta. The word netta is still largely unknown because it's usually translated as gods. And from that stumbling block, an entire world of falsification developed, which has corrupted the true integrity of the ancient teaching. The Egyptians never had multiple gods, let alone worship them. But they did know a lot about cosmic law and order, which is closer to the meaning of the word nettas. And reading the images and text that way, an entirely different picture begins to emerge, a picture that unveils the profound mystical understanding behind their ancient teaching. So setting that one straight is the greatest key to unlocking the temple wisdom. It means letting go of all the tall tales you've ever heard about the gods of Egypt and renewing your relationship to nature. You see, many people have forgotten the immense power and majesty of nature. They can't even remember just what nature is or how it came to be there. But the nettas are the divine processes by which nature is created. Apart from man-made things, everything that exists in the entire universe is created in accordance with cosmic law, the nettas, and that is called nature. The Egyptians believed that everything was created by a unique, all-powerful source of conscious energy, which they called Ra. They also believed that as the creator, Ra made the creation according to cosmic law and order, which they called the nettas. These laws are what enable things to come into being. They are the metaphysical processes of creation rather than the created things themselves. And so to make it clearer, the temple sages personified them to give them a recognizable form. They gave them names and symbolic attributes to clearly distinguish between them and describe their relationships to one another, showing which ones can be combined together and how. They made them male or female, not in the gender sense of men and women, but in the qualitative sense, just as nouns in most Western languages are either male or female. And to record how these processes unfold and teach how they can be used, the sages also created an entirely symbolic visual language that can clearly explain the abstract nature of the netters. So when all of this gets too complicated, just remember the vital connection between the netters and nature, because if you want to see them functioning, that's where you have to turn. You cannot actually see the netters, but you can find their traces in nature, where cosmic laws are constantly in motion, making sure things get done behind the scenes. And this is where the knowledge of the temple sages excelled, in observing and recording the miraculous nature of how things work, not only on earth, but throughout the universe. And they left their records inside the temples. The temple represents the universe, and its walls are filled with scenes showing the king or pharaoh interacting with the netters. In other words, getting involved with cosmic laws. These laws are in operation both within you and throughout the whole of creation. Each scene is a masterpiece of sacred art that takes place outside of space and time and contains multiple meanings that can be read on many different levels. Here's a typical scene showing the king with the netter Amun. The first thing to understand is that symbolically the king is you, and not some historical figure from a distant past. Secondly, notice how the face of the netter closely resembles the face of the king, often forming a mirror image of it. This is to make it clear that the netter or divine element he has summoned is both within you and without. The objects they hold are highly symbolic and cannot be taken at face value. Commonly called an offering scene, the principal focus of their interchange is not about giving or receiving. It's about being connected. When you are connected to your source, a constant flow of energy is in motion and things can be freely exchanged. When you are disconnected, everything stops. To read these scenes correctly, we start with the netter. Most often the netter is offering an ankh to the nose of the king, giving him the breath of life. And this is the critical point. Breath is the gift of life. Every breath that you inhale is the most divine gift you could ever receive. Look at this mirror image of Senusret face to face with Ptah. What's exchanged here is the breath, directly, without intermediaries. As Ptah breathes out, the king inhales his divine breath, and as the king breathes out, the netter graciously receives it back, creating a flow of divine love in perpetual motion, continuous until the moment of death. Through our breath, we have direct contact with the divine energy of the Creator every moment of our lives, whether we are aware of its miraculous nature or not. When you are aware, you can connect with the netter and begin that continuous flow like the king. Translating the word netters as gods keeps them in the box, a firmly closed and sealed box. So once you start opening them up as the divine powers of nature, which are always in action everywhere, you begin to realize their vital importance, not only to the Egyptians, but to everyone alive today. These laws are what keep the universe constantly expanding into ever greater dimensions of time, space, and consciousness. And they're readily available to be used, once you know how. Getting to know the netters through a deeper understanding of nature is the first step towards practically using them in your daily life. Always remembering that you are the king.